Hi, everyone. My name is Jillian, and I am here with Cyrstal. And this podcast is called Love Over 40. And this was like, to do this podcast was like so spontaneous. It was just literally out of a conversation with somebody about, that the challenges of dating over the age of 40 and, some of the opinions that people have almost that women are expired after a certain age, to we get too set in our ways to meet anybody. And I just said, when I look in the real world, I see people over 40 getting into relationships all the time. And so I knew that it was a bit of a false, even though there's some truth to some things for sure, I knew that it was a little bit of a false narrative that as we age, as women, we can't find partners. Because even at my mom's age, she's turning 80 this year, and she has a group of women that she literally went to kindergarten with, and they call themselves the 60s chicks, even though they're like turning 80 now. But even those women, some of their husbands are passing, and they go on to find partners in their late 70s, So I know it's possible, and I just wanted to share these stories for women that are single over the age of 40, that are having that desire in their heart, and they really want to find their sacred partner. And so I know that you have found your sacred partner, and I know that you are going to share the story. So I'm going to stop talking, and I just will give you the floor, and you can tell us how you met your sacred partner, when, and all of those yummy juicy details.
All right. Well, I will kind of tell a little bit of my history first. So before I met John, my husband, my current husband, I was married. I've had two prior husbands, divorced twice. And my first marriage, I was so young. I was like 20 when I had my baby and when we got married. And at 20, you just don't even know yourself. So that didn't last long. It lasted a few years. He was in the military. Anyways, it just did not last. So then pretty quick after that, about 4 years later, when I was about 25, I met my second husband. Again, relatively young, had two kids, knocked out three more kids pretty quickly. And so that one actually lasts about 15 years. So I ended up getting divorced in my early 40s and had been married basically since I was in my 20s, early 20s. For 20 years. That's all I had known, was being married. So when I got divorced that second time, here I am in my 40s. And like you said, all I thought was, oh God, I'm going to be single for the rest of my life now. And for a while that was okay, because I'd always been responsible for kids. My kids were growing at that point. Half of them were out of the house. So I finally had that time to myself. Yeah. So I just kind of went crazy and enjoyed the single life and wasn't really, trying to find anybody. So probably about 3 years after my divorce, I started kind of thinking, okay, it'd be nice to have a partner again. But it took me 5 years ultimately to find John. So just sometimes it takes time and you have to be patient and work, wait for the right person. There were times it almost was tempting just to settle for the almost right guy, just to have somebody there. So there were a few of those almost rights. And I realized, no, I need to wait for the right guy, the one that really, that I could see myself growing older with. Yeah. So John and I, we met on Tinder, believe it or not.
Yay! Because everybody says it's just a hookup app. So there you go. You can meet. You are not the first woman. No, you are not the first woman that is over 40 that has met her husband on Tinder. I know of others.
Yeah, so it can happen. So anyways, we met on Tinder, and right away I could kind of tell a difference with him. When he said he was going to call, he called. He responded to texts. He texted me daily. He works out of town, so we couldn't have our first date probably for a couple weeks. But he kept me engaged, and we called. He actually called. He actually picked up the phone and called. And he still does that to this day. He loves to talk on the phone. But so our first date was probably about 2 weeks after we met, and he jumped out of his truck. He came to I lived in apartments. I never told people where I lived, but I gave him, okay, you can come to the office, because he really wanted to pick me up for the first date. So I said, okay, you can meet me at the front office. So anyways, our first date ended up lasting, I think we met up at like 11 o'clock or so in the afternoon. And the date ended about 9 p.m. that night. Wow. So, yeah, it was probably one of the best first dates I've ever had. My last first date, actually. So I guess, yeah, so that's kind of our initial story. So I don't know what you want to know from there, but.
Yeah, well, one of the questions that I had for you and was how long did it take you before you actually became like exclusive with each other? And once you like, and how, if you can remember, how did it happen? Like, did you bring it up? Did you like, how did that happen that you ended up being exclusive, and how long did that take?
It didn't take long. I think it was maybe, well, in the beginning, he was kind of still kind of not seeing other people, but we were still like, I didn't date anybody else after him. He still had a couple dates with some other people, but it was probably, I want to say 2 to 3, maybe 3 weeks after our first date, where he sat me down and he says, look, I know, you know, that I kind of been talking to other people, but he's like, I really want to be with you. He's like, you make me happy. I have fun with you. Like, you're the only one that I want to date. And so that was, he brought it up. He just, you know, and I was all aboard already. So I was like very happy.
Wow.
It was about 3 weeks. Yeah.
Okay, about 3 weeks. And then at that time, you basically decided that you would be exclusive with one
Yes.
another and
Yeah.
and move forward in that way.
Yeah.
And he was the one who brought up the conversation with you.
Yes.
Now, in the past, now I don't know if you remember or not. In the past, did it go that way with your husbands as well? Was
It
it
was a
that
different
fast?
time. Back then, you didn't meet people on the internet. Obviously, this is back like in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. So
Yeah.
there was no internet. I don't think I didn't even have a cell phone. I think I had a pager back then. So you didn't have all of that. So it was more just like, that's just kind of how it went. You started dating somebody and you weren't really worried about them dating all these other people because, you know, you just met people organically back then.
Exactly.
It was a
Just
totally
kind of
different situation.
out and about, out and about. So you're saying that when you met him on Tinder, so it was very quickly that you got onto a phone call with him. So when you met him on Tinder, how soon was it that he was like asking to, did he ask to call you, like ask for your number? Is that how it
Yeah,
went?
I think we talked like a day, and I think it was either that same day or the next day that he said, hey, can I get your number? And you know, let's have a phone call.
Very
So,
quickly. So
yeah.
very quickly. That's
Yes.
great. And I wanted to make sure that I had my questions written down here so that I don't miss anything. So this was something I was going to probably ask you a little bit down the road, but what about your relationship with him like inspires you? What makes you super happy about your relationship with him? What are the great things about it that maybe you didn't have with other men in the past?
Honesty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, and I'm like, this is the early days. There's more now because we've
Yeah.
been together almost 3 years, but in the early
Yeah.
days, like I said, he always, when he said he was going to do something, it happened.
Yeah.
I could depend on his word. I wasn't like always like in the past, you kind of get that sense where you're like, they're not being honest, or there's something going on, or, you know,
Yeah.
they're just kind of playing the field. I never got that feeling with him. It was
Right.
always, he has a very kind soul, a very kind heart. And that's kind of shown through from the very beginning. Like
I like that. And I
yes,
want the ladies to really hear that he had a kind soul and a kind heart. And
yes.
I'm assuming because of that, he probably has a very good character.
Yes, he has a great character. Yes, he is like he of course he has his flaws. You know, everybody does, but
Of course.
I've never met somebody who's just so caring. Like he shows me almost daily how he cares about me, you know, even 3 years later.
And how are some of those ways?
Like he'll buy me flowers at least once a week. I get flower, like I always have flowers. It's just he won't leave the house in the morning. He goes to work, like when he's in town and he's leaving work, he always kisses me goodbye in the morning. Even if I'm not awake, he'll kiss me goodbye. He'll call me throughout the day and just to talk to me and say hi, just to hear my voice. And you know, we talk at least once a day. When he's out of town, again, he calls me in the evening multiple times just to kind of check in and just have that conversation and stay in touch. He's always thinking about things that will make me happy, and just little things that I probably can't even think of right now that just show me daily that he cares about me. And he's done that all the time. Like even from the beginning, he's always made an effort to make sure that I see how much he cares.
Wow. So important. So his energy is just coming to you in like so many different ways.
Yes.
Now I want to ask you something, because I wrote a book, and I have in the book, like when you're on a first date with a guy, when a guy likes you, he likes to talk, right? And you told me that your guy is a talker, and I have noticed this when a guy when a guy likes a girl, one of the ways you'll know is because if you're being a little bit quiet and allowing him, he's going to be very talkative.
Yes.
And some women might look at this as like, maybe they're being arrogant or something because they're talking so much about themselves. But I always like to say, think of him like with the peacock feathers, the male peacocks, and they're like showing their feathers, and they're actually trying to impress you. So it sounds like he was trying to do a lot of that and impress you.
Yes, he still does. Like, he's still like, he'll do something and he'll like make sure that he tells me about, how he did this so great. And it's cute. He's always kind of trying, not bragging, but he just is always trying to make me aware of like when he does something that he wants me to be excited about. So,
right.
yeah.
And then I'm assuming that you are, I know he's your biggest cheerleader.
Yes.
Because we're friends on Facebook and
Yes.
I see the posts. So, and I'm assuming that you are his biggest cheerleader as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
did you guys ever need to have a discussion about like what each other needed to bring to the table, or did you both just show up from the beginning, bringing your best selves to each other already, or was that
No.
a process?
That was a process. Yeah.
Okay.
I definitely did not bring my best self from the beginning because I'd had all that baggage from the dating, the 5 years of dating, 5-6 years of dating,
Right.
and just disappointment after disappointment. And, and you just get so jaded, and trying not to bring that into a new relationship, especially with him in the beginning. He was out of town maybe 4 or 5 days a week.
Mhm.
And so I would just get in my head and be like, oh, he hasn't texted me, for like, 4 hours. He's probably out with some woman or something. So I got in my own head a lot, but he handled that really well,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
So you came to him with that.
Yes.
And obviously expressed to him.
Yes.
And this is such a key thing too, because we do have these traumas and we can be working on them, but we still, as women, gosh, we can have that anxiety. And it can really be, it's such a horrible feeling, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's something interesting to note, because even with your sacred partner, there can still be a little bit of that anxiety. And I want to note that even though you have found your sacred partner, us as women, we can still have a little bit of that anxiety. Now, maybe not it's not going to be the overwhelming anxiety when you're with the wrong person. That's like overwhelming and almost debilitating.
Yes.
I remember one time I was with the wrong man. I literally had a beat right here. I guess that's my solar plex. It was pulsing. Like, I had so much anxiety from this person. It was physically pulsing.
I felt the same thing, not in that way, but I know exactly what you mean. When you're with that wrong person, it seems they feed your anxiety. Like, they just exacerbate it. And where he calms it down, or he calms it down. Now I don't have it at all. I don't worry at all about anything with them, but yeah, now he somehow calmed it down. And I would say with it probably took about 6 months or so, but where I was no longer, I didn't even like it was just there was no anxiety. There was no anxiousness. There was none of that. So
after about 6 months.
Yeah.
And then, did you say he's your husband, right?
Yes, we got married in midst of chemo. So that's a big story. That's when I really knew he was definitely my person, when I got diagnosed with cancer. We'd only been together, gosh, was it 2 years at that point? It was a little under 2 years at that point that we'd been together. And he just stepped right up. Like, through the entire process of everything, he was my rock. Like, I could have gotten through it, but he made it like so much easier for me to get through chemo and all that stuff. And yeah, he proposed to me right in the middle of all that. And we got married about 3 months later after the proposal, because we're young. Like, I mean, we're not young, we're old. So why wait, we weren't going to this big wedding. So I'm like, let's just do it. Let's just get married.
Just do it.
So,
you've already had the big wedding. You could just go to the freaking courthouse and get married.
We went to Tahoe and did it. Yeah.
My friend said to me the other day, yeah, we can't screw anymore. We're half of the way to dead. I'm like, right. I know. Oh my gosh. So you were married from the time that you met to the time that you got married. How long was that?
From the time we met to, it was 2 and about 4 months.
You guys were married from the time you met to the time you got married it was 4 months?
2 years and 4 months.
Oh, 2 years and 4 months. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. And so your wedding, was it his family and your family?
Yeah, we had his family, my kids, and then some of friends. So it was probably about 30 or 40 people that we had there. Yeah. And so we went up to Tahoe and we did a little chapel there, and then we went out to dinner. Yeah, it was nice. It was really pretty.
Sounds absolutely lovely. And so we kind of touched on this a little bit. I think it's a big thing for people to date with their cups full, so that they are looking at the relationship as, okay, what am I going to give this to this relationship? And when both people are doing that, I call it like your cups are full and you're overflowing into each other. And so there's so much dating information out there that I fell into for so many years that just kept getting me dead end after dead end after dead end, which was more like, let's put our armor on and let's like see who can punch the other one in the face first before the other one hurts me. It didn't dawn on me that who in the hell would want to be with somebody like that, when actually in reality, what we all want is to be loved deeply, deeply, deeply. And so, we think there's some people out there some coaches out there that I am listening to. I don't know if they're coaches or not, but they're saying, I don't bring anything to the table. So when somebody says, I don't bring anything to the table, and this is being taught to women, do you think that your husband, John, would have committed to you so deeply as he has if you didn't bring anything to the table?
No, absolutely not. Because I mean, number one, he's told me stories of women he dated before me who didn't bring anything to the table. And obviously they're not around. And secondly, once I knew his history with his last relationship and the fact that was somebody who didn't bring anything to the table, and it just was not obviously his person. No, absolutely not. If I hadn't brought anything, if I'd come like that and being like, I'm not bringing anything, you proved to me everything. No, that would not
it wouldn't have gone. And I think a lot of times that's what's happening in relationships is women, because they're misconstruing. Obviously, feminine energy is the receiving energy, and it's absolutely necessary to have a polarized relationship. But the part that's missing is, what are we also giving to the man so that he has what he needs? So he sees you as this rare diamond, and he's not getting this from any other girl anywhere, because so many girls are all about me, 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 me. And what am I going to get? That you had these skills or this knowledge. So is this something that you learned, or like to be able to honor him in some ways? Or how did that all come about, that you realized, okay, I got to bring something to the table too, and realizing, okay, what are the things that he needs? I know he was maybe going to show up today, and I was going to ask him, what is she giving you? Like, what is she giving you that made you love her so much and want to commit to this woman so much? What are these things? Because I want women to know these things, because men don't commit to women that aren't able to tap into that and to be able to give him what he needs.
Yeah. And I think I made an effort to, he did lead usually he'd be the one to call me. Usually he'd be the one to set up dates in the beginning. Usually he'd be like one, like, let's hang out tonight. And, there are times where I'd be like, I want to hang out tonight, but he really did lead. I let him lead most of the relationship. And I think that, and in the past, I tried to lead relationships, and I would be like, hey, when are we going to hang out? I want to see you. Why don't you come see me? Why aren't you here? And I think that was, and then also, like you said, I had my shield up before when I was dating a lot. I would be so quick to like, nope, you're gone because you did this one little thing that I didn't like, and I just know that it's going to continue. So bye. And I think when I finally got through all that, and it's like, okay, now I'm going to be a little more open, and I'm going to, instead of trying to lead the relationship and force somebody to fall in love with me, I'm just going to I'm going to find somebody who wants to fall in love with me and is ready to, and I'm not trying to, lead that whole thing. So
exactly.
I think it was just growing, getting older and dating so much and seeing what didn't work and trying to force things that just weren't meant to be forced. And
exactly.
So
now, when you guys first met on Tinder, I don't know if you can remember or not, if did he have put in there, because you could put, looking for a relationship, not looking for anything serious. I don't know what things are all on there right at this very moment. I'm sure it's probably changed.
I haven't been on there.
I was on there. But did he either have on there that he wanted a relationship, or did he make that clear that he was looking for a relationship early on?
Yes, he made it clear that he was looking for a relationship. That was his goal. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yes. That is awesome, because I just think so many times, again, women are told not to do that. And it's like, literally, such a block, and it's preventing them from meeting their match. And then they're going to end up getting together with a guy that just wants to go with the flow, or just
Yes.
wants to see what just wants to see, or whatever. And it's like, no, that's not.
I fell into that a lot. I fell into that trap many times. So like, but no, it's gonna turn into something, and no, it's not. So you got to just cut it, let it go. Bye.
Exactly. So intentions matter a lot. So obviously now a lot of dating coaches will use the word submissive or submit, and I don't particularly like the word submissive or submit. There's almost a negative connotation to it. But were you able to really, well, I already know that you were able to really relax and submit to him. What are the qualities about him that he possessed that made you be able to just completely relax and trust and admire him and respect him and just really allow him to lead? Because I think a lot of women have a really hard time.
Yeah.
Well, I think when you're with the wrong person,
Yes.
you don't let them lead because you don't admire them, you don't respect them, and so you can't be in that sort of what we would call the submissive role. Now, I know you did tell me a lot of those things, but maybe just give me a couple of things that you really admire about your husband that really inspired you to be able to relax and receive and, be in this more willful, cooperative energy with him.
I think the biggest things for me first were that he communicated, and he listened. So the listening is, So he'd listen to my concerns, when I told, when he was out of town, and he's like, just talk to me. He's like, if you need to talk to me, just call me. And, and if I don't answer, just say, hey, I need to talk to you. So he listened to my, my fears and my anxieties and those things. And then he figured out how we could kind of work through them. Whereas in the past, I was always worried to tell a guy if I was feeling anxious or if I worried about something, because I was like, if I say the wrong thing, they're going to run away. But then I realized if they run away, that's not the right person.
Exactly. Let me just say it in a loving way. Let them know that's such a key thing, is the communication. And for me, I like to always start out saying, I love you so much, and this is the problem I'm experiencing. It's not you, it's my past trauma, and it's showing up here, and I love you so much. And then, this is what's happening, and then give him the chance. And isn't it, I know how it feels when you meet the man, because my man is the same, and it's not toxic.
Yes.
You say something and you're expecting the shoe to fall. You're expecting the shoe to fall, and it doesn't. It just doesn't fall because he's receptive. Yes. And you found that, isn't it just like the most beautiful feeling? And then you feel so safe.
It takes so much weight off of you. It really does. I can tell him anything. I can talk to him about anything, and he can me too. We are each other's best friends. We really are. Yeah. That's my best friend. If I had to pick one person that I was stuck on an island with, it'd be him, and I'd be happy about this.
Wow. You really have found your sacred partner.
Yeah.
If there was, I don't know if you have anything at all that you would like to just share off the cuff with the women that are watching this, that you think might be pertinent to them right now in this time when they are in their 40s or 50s or 60s, and they are single, and they're maybe in that place that you and me were at, divorced at, early 40s, dating for 5 years, just go on the hamster wheel with the same, never anything getting anywhere. And maybe sometimes being in that masculine energy and trying to make things happen. Is there any words of wisdom that you could give the women watching this?
I think for me, don't get in your head that it's too late. I was 49, almost 50 when I met my husband.
I love that.
Yeah. And he's 5 years younger. So also,
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to go.
4 years younger too.
Yeah. He's 5 years younger than me. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna stop talking.
So don't get so stuck on the age range. Obviously, don't go 15, 20 years younger, but don't be so stuck that they have to be older or they have to be a certain age. Be open. And he's not my typical type that I would have probably, I used to go for the really tall, not that he's short, but I went for the really tall, really muscular, almost beefy kind of guy.
Yeah.
And he's not that, but like, I'm so in love with him. And I think he's the sexiest thing I've ever seen in my life. So just be open and, to that would be my best. And like I said, I know it's hard, especially as single women and today, and we're so in charge of our careers and our lives and everything. Like, sometimes just let the man be in charge, even if it's just for a date or something, just let him lead a little bit, because it really does, it does help.
Oh, it's the polarity again. It just creates that magnetic energy when we don't take away that leadership role.
Yeah.
Because that when we take away the leadership role, I think it's like taking the wind out of that man's sails. And then he's like,
Yes.
what am I even doing here? Because they want to be helpful, and they want to do things for you, and they want to, be able to provide and protect and create safety for you. And when we don't allow that, then it actually kills the attraction,
Yes.
doesn't it?
Yes, I
Yes.
agree. Yes.
Yeah. And I want to mention this too, because the whole height thing. So how tall is your husband?
He's not sure. He's 5'10", and I'm
Oh, he's
5'2". Yeah.
And you're
So
5'2". Well,
yeah.
this is the thing too, like, and listen, I will honor this for women. If you have a list and you are adamant about you want this, this, and this, and this, and you have that written down, that's what you want, then I think go for that. For me, I had some of those things too, that I thought he had to be older than me and he had to be this tall and whatever. And then I ended up meeting a man who was younger than me and 2 inches tops taller than me, and I'm 5'3". And I never somebody who wasn't my, maybe typical guy, but I
Right.
absolutely adore this man.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, he is so perfect in every single way. I love everything about him. I love every part of him. I love his soul. I love his heart. Yes. So I know exactly what you were saying.
Yeah.
I think we have very parallel experiences. Is there we're going to wrap it up here. Is there any one thing you would like to leave the ladies with?
Oh, I
I
don't
kind of
give
already
up.
asked you that.
Don't give up. Like I said, I told you, I was single for 8 years and I found my guy. So don't give up, and yeah, just be open. Be open. So
I love that. Don't give up and be open to maybe something that is maybe a little bit different than what you maybe typically have been doing in the past.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your story. You look absolutely gorgeous. Are you still going through your treatments, your chemo
I'm
treatment?
done with chemo. Yeah, but
And
I
you're
have a
done.
couple surgeries coming up, but other than that,
Okay.
I'm all
Well,
good.
you look absolutely magnificent, and
Thank
I
you.
wish you the best. And I feel like with your energy and everything, you are definitely, whatever you're doing, you're on the right path. So
Thank you. Thank
you
you.
are so welcome. Thank you for doing this with me. I
All
appreciate
right.
it, and we will talk to you again.
All right.
All
Bye.
right, bye. Are you sure you want to start with it?